today, we're just going to be specifically talking about who leadership is for. And I talked about this a little bit in the assembly at the beginning of the year, and I'm sure many of you don't remember, but I want you to hear, all of you to hear, that it's not just for the confident and charismatic. So many of you, I'm sure, think that leadership isn't for you because you don't have that. And I want you to understand that leadership it can be for everyone. You just have to decide for yourself, is this something that I want for myself? Am I interested in leading, right? And what are the traits that I'm really drawn to in other leaders? And can I be self-aware enough to figure out who I am and how I present to others? And what is it that I want to become? And just start working on it, right? That's how you lead. It's like throwing a ball, right? You don't start in the world throwing, well, maybe some do find it a little bit easier, but you work on it and work on it. You start with the same foot forward, and then your parents teach you to go the opposite forward, and then you learn about all the mechanics, and you go and you go and you work on it and you become better, right? And that's the same thing in leadership. It is a skill that can be developed. So I want you all to hear that this is something that is available to all of you. Grade 11s for next year into grade 12 as prefects, but all of you can figure out how to lead in your own way and develop those skills. I am really excited that Isabel has decided to share her thoughts on leadership and her journey. And think about Isabel as a leader, right? I have learned, I work very closely with her, and she is the quiet, thoughtful, reflective, self-aware leader who is very willing to sort of take risks and step into leading in new ways. And I have so much respect for how she has worked her way into this role and has developed as a leader. And I hope that you see it. I know that you see it. I think that she has gained the admiration of the staff and students because she is so dedicated to the school and her own pathway as a leader, that we see this genuineness in her that people want to follow. And I think that's an important piece to consider as well, is that when you lead through who you truly are, right, then it's much more impactful. And I think that Isabel doesn't feel like she needs to be anybody but herself and use the skills and her strengths that she has to lead others and make an impact. And an example of that is 2 days ago when I realized in the middle of the day that we didn't actually have 2 chapel services that we could talk about leadership. So it was supposed to be today and it was supposed to be next week. And the next week one was going to be Isabel, and the first week one was going to be Mr. Monroe and I. And I thought, oh, okay, 1 second, we only have one, so I'm going to have to make a change here. And I wasn't able to start thinking about that change until 2 nights ago. And remember, we had chapel yesterday. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to figure something out. And I started putting the plan together, and I thought, wait a second, I don't want to exclude Isabel from this opportunity, but it's very last minute. And I had to decide whether I was going to let her know and give her the opportunity to do something quickly the next day, or just sort of move on from it and find an opportunity another time. So I decided to very sort of kindly ask and not put any pressure. And she was at work and it was early evening already. So we're talking about for the next day. And I asked her if she would consider it. And she was just like, I really want to do it. I think it's really important, but I am at work, so let me think about it. Another incredible response, because if she's going to do it, she wants to do it well. And she wants to take the challenge, but she's at work. So a couple hours later, she reached out and said, I'm in, right? And I think that also shows that she felt it was important to put the time in, even if it's last minute, to share something with you, to make that impact, right? And then the additional challenge for her is her public speaking. And she's been working on that, and she's trying a different approach, and this was going to give her that opportunity to try that approach as well. So it's just another example of Isabel being such a wonderful leader, very committed to the school, and I'm now going to welcome her to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I really wanted to highlight the kind of who is leadership for portion in the grand scheme of what leadership is exactly, because I felt like I really personally resonated with this part of it as someone who's kind of more introverted and never really before coming to QMS thought that leadership was something that was really meant for me, which is something I'll kind of expand on a little bit later. But I feel like this is something I really would have wanted to hear when I was younger, and I think nobody really explicitly told me this when I was younger, but I think it really would have helped if I heard it. And I think is especially important to emphasize now with the process to select the next group of prefects happening pretty soon, that leadership is not built or meant for a specific type of person. I always used to really believe in that misconception that leading was kind of only meant for the charismatic or the extroverted people in this world, and having that belief in that misconception really prevented me from trying a lot of new things and putting myself out there. It really essentially crushed my willingness to even try, and so I wouldn't even put my name out in an application or try and participate in things because I just felt like I wasn't the right kind of person or the right fit for that role. And so if you were to tell my past self where I am now, I really don't think I would have believed you back then, because if you know me well, like my close friends, my family for sure, my old teachers at my old school, especially in elementary school, I was so incredibly shy. It wasn't even funny. Compared to me now, I would say I've definitely developed more extroverted attributes, but I'd say in general I'm still at times introverted and extroverted. And I think more so before, I really never thought that leadership was something that was kind of meant for me or was something that I was able or capable to do. However, despite all of that, I think it is still possible to be kind of more reserved and still hold a leadership position. I feel like I'm kind of an example of that. And we, of course, need people, those more introverted people like that, to have diverse representation across, especially in the prefect council. I find it's important to have those quiet people, the thoughtful people, and also the extroverted people, as that creates a balance, and that's very important for a team to have. So I just want to say, like, don't count yourself out of the race before it has even began, purely based off of that untrue assumption that only the most popular or outgoing people are the only types of people who end up in leadership roles, because it is just untrue. Your talents, skills, and opinions are still very valued assets that a team cannot function without. And so as someone who's kind of more introverted, as I mentioned before, I never really knew, I think before this year, that leadership is less so about who the perfect candidate is or who has the best qualities, qualifications, or credentials, but really what you make of your current circumstances and situation. Going into the head prefect role for me, starting at the year, I really didn't know how I would do and if I'd really be able to handle the pressure and responsibilities of it. There's definitely been numerous instances this year for sure that I've faced challenges that I've never experienced before, and so as an individual, I didn't really know how to handle or deal with the situation. And so I feel like that is where having a strong support system, kind of a reliable team, especially my prefect council, I think is an example that comes to my mind. And having Ms. Powell as a mentor and Mr. Monroe as a mentor is just very key in managing stressful situations, and knowing that you have people that will back you up and pick up the slack sometimes maybe when you're not in the right mindset to deal with something is very important. However, all of that's not to say that you won't need to challenge yourself at times. Traversing outside of your comfort zone is ultimately where growth happens and is necessary to develop your skills as a leader. This chapel presentation is kind of stepping a bit out of my comfort zone, because when me and Ms. Powell initially started talking about doing this, it was about a month ago. And so I kind of procrastinated on thinking about it, because I was like, oh, I have a month to work on it. And then 2 nights ago, I was at work, and she reached out, and she was like, well, we don't have chapel next week because of Spirit Week, so do you want to do something this week? And I was like, it's literally hours before I'm supposed to go to sleep. Like, I'm not sure if this is something I want to commit to, but I did feel strongly that I had important things to say about it, and that people might be able to gain at least one thing from what I'm saying. So I feel like that in itself, stepping up to the challenge, stepping up to the plate sometimes is something that is necessary for a leader to do, and I have demonstrated that by committing to do this week. And I'm also trying that kind of new notes style speaking technique rather than writing out an entire script, which I usually would like to do. It was a way that I could get to sleep faster 2 nights ago, so that may explain a little bit about the more personal approach that I have to this today, rather than my usually more kind of organized manner. However, over my lifetime, I don't think I naturally possessed public speaking skills. It's something I've definitely had to work really hard at. At my old school, we would do a lot of speech competitions and stuff, and I wouldn't say that I participated in those competitions out of my own volition. I would say it was maybe more out of my mom's pressure, but I do hate to admit that although I didn't really like doing them back at my old school, I do think that they pushed me out of my comfort zone, especially back then when I was a lot shyer, and helped me develop the public speaking skills that I have now and shaped my public speaking skills to where they are at now. And so I definitely was not born knowing how to speak in front of an audience, and that is a skill that you will develop as you do more of it, like I am doing now. So just kind of to wrap up everything that I'm saying, just in conclusion, I want to say, please have a little belief in yourself and faith in your natural talents, because that in itself goes a long way. It really did for me. And to push yourself to strive for the things you want to achieve, because there will always be a need for every type of person, and leadership truly can be for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. I could not think of a stronger role model to get up here and talk about leadership. She really has sort of proven her ability to lead and her commitment to the school throughout the year, and so I just want to thank you again and for taking on the challenge. Being a prefect, that happens, right? It happens where there's last minute things that come your way and you've got to decide whether you want to step into it or just say no thank you. But when you do step in, it's a gift, right? So thank you so much, Isabel. Now I want you to take a moment to close your eyes. Okay, so everyone try and keep your eyes closed, and I'll walk you through a little exercise. Okay, nice and quiet, please. Okay, I want you to imagine that you have a blank page in front of you. Crisp, white, blank page. And that you get to write your leadership story. You get to own it and decide what that story will be. Without holding yourself back, I want you to think about the traits that you have or that you would like to develop as a leader and put them onto that page. I now want you to think about the characteristics you possess or would like to possess and put them on the page. And now I want you to think about the behaviors that you would show that other people would see who you are as a leader. So it's like taking those behaviors, their skills and the traits and putting them into action. What would they see you do each day? And now I want you to think about impact. What's the impact? Put that on paper. The impact that you make with the skills, traits, and the actions you take. Now, while keeping your eyes closed, look at that whole page. What do you see? Are you there? Are you getting there? Now you can open your eyes.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for those words today and for preparing that for everyone. I think that your personal story, which far expands on what you elaborated on, but what it does is it captures a sort of a humble nature that I think is probably what most leaders have, because very few people grow up thinking that they're going to be leaders and recognizing that they're going to contribute in the development of the environment that they're in, or the development of a space that creates opportunity for other people, or that has an impact or creates change. It's not necessarily something we grow up feeling that we're going to do. I think one thing that comes through is when you're able to role model a way as an individual within a community, and you think of the school values and you think of how many of you consistently live by those values, role model those values, like you are already in essence demonstrating leadership through doing that. Okay, and so it's within all of you, and I think often you don't realize how much you influence other people through your words and your actions. I've said it before, you each individually have incredible value within the community. When it comes to different leadership opportunities at a school, they're categorized in a number of different ways. And I think what you need to consider is, like, what do I really care about? What are some of the elements of my personal journey that make me or lead me to care about certain things more than others? And for some of you, that might be really caring about how someone else's day is going. Are we creating spaces that are inclusive for other people? That might be something for some of you. Others of you might be more, I really love the arts programs, I'd love to see those develop. For others, it's I care about sports, or I actually care about, I've learned a lot through my own personal journey of how to study effectively for exams, and when I realized what it was and it made a big difference for me, maybe I could share that with someone else, and I could help create a change in their experience. Okay, when it boils down to it, try and develop that self-awareness of what do I care about, because then that is an area that I think you're going to be able to lead in and become a leader in, which will provide benefit for yourself, and it provides benefit for other people. The school prefect group requires a real variety, as you heard from Isabel said. It requires a variety of different personalities. It requires a variety of different areas of care. There are some roles and responsibilities that are school-wide, but we also need people who care deeply about certain areas that will continue driving, having impact, move the school forward, move experiences forward. So, yeah, I just wanted to go back to Isabel's speech, and I'm really pleased she was able to come and share her experience. And I think what stood out for me was that Isabel didn't think she was going to be here today saying this to you. And there are probably many of you that are sitting there that would think, well, I'm not going to be a school prefect, or I don't think of myself as a leader, but I think that you should. And I think all you need to consider is, like, what do I really care about? And keep role modeling these values that you have, your value system. And there's so much positive change and influence that you can create, not only in yourself but in those around you, and that will be hugely fulfilling and really meaningful. So I hope many of you have a chance to consider your personal journey and how that might unfold. Great exercise with visualization of the future, and hopefully a song that will stay in your head for a bit and just remind you to think a little bit about how you might want to contribute this week and next week and beyond. But I'll just invite everyone to join me in another recognition of what Isabel did today and stood up and what she shared. That was a really, really great message. Thank you for doing that. And I'm just going to stand aside and let her come back up, because I believe she's going to share something to do with Spirit Week next week. And so out of interest, Halloween, how many of you dressed up for Halloween? Okay, there's definitely more, but thank you for the hand. And then, like, Spirit Week, there's an opportunity to dress up too. And so some people love doing that, and it really is uplifting for them, and it creates a bit of energy on campus. And even something as small as that can change the mood and the energy within a community. And so, again, it's a connection there. There's just one thing that you could do as a leader to create improvement in other people's lives. So over to Isabel to let us know a bit more about what that is.
Yeah, just a quick announcement kind of from Sedona, because we didn't have Monday Assembly this week. She just wanted all of you to be aware. Next week, I think I'm going to just talk about the themes for next week, the dress-up theme. So Monday, I believe, is mathletes versus athletes, so dress up in your favorite sports attire or your team's jersey, or dress up as a nerd. Tuesday is Rhyme Without Reason. So the costumes, find a group of friends or one friend. The costumes don't have to make sense. The names of the costumes just have to rhyme. Wednesday is country club versus country, and so dress up like you're going golfing, going to the country club, or like a southern country outfit. And then Thursday we're ending off the week with a spirit day. So dress up in your spirit colors, house colors. Then Friday I believe we don't have school, it's a Brody day. So that's all I really have to say.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.